Hey guys, this is Alissia. I'm a producer, writer, multi-instrumentalist, and we're here at the Spaceship, my studio in New York City, and I'm here with Sweetwater today. Music always had an important role in my life. In my household, Motown was always playing. I really got inspired by James Brown, Prince, Michael Jackson, and that really made me want to pick up music. I started playing piano when I was little, and then I moved from Europe to the US, and I picked up the bass and different instruments. And I was a big funk head, 70s funk head. I mean, from Bootsy to Cameo to Larry Graham, Louis Johnson, those were huge influences for me, and I was always nerding out on just bass lines. So that really made me want to pick up the bass and really learn the groove. Berkeley was great for me because, you know, I didn't really know anyone in the US. I kind of came with a blank canvas. I was kind of like a sponge. I really wanted to learn. I was a big nerd. I wanted to learn how to arrange for big band and just orchestra and learn about music business and theory and harmony and everything. Really the ins and outs of music, and that was really amazing. I met incredibly talented people, always jam sessions, really sharpening your craft in every field. So I was really like a sponge in every classes and just hangs and jam sessions. Super amazing experience for me. I had a couple really amazing mentors. John Blackwell was one of them. When I got the Prince call, I remember he was there and he really trained me to prepare for the audition, I guess, or the meet with Prince. So we kind of started shedding all his live shows and every arrangement and everything. He was incredible. And also, well, rest in peace, John. And Lenny Stallworth, also rest in peace. He introduced me to the P-Funk world and just really let me music direct the ensemble and everything. And that's when I really started digging in P-Funk, all of the live shows and arrangements, and that was incredible. I really loved Prince. That was like kind of my goal, to get the call. And I remember when I received a random, at the time, Facebook inbox from his guy. He was like, "Hey, Prince wants to meet you." And I was like, "Oh, okay, not a big deal, whatever." And it was just like, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God, like I need to shed all of his arrangements, all of his songs. Because I remember John at the time was telling me, you need to like know everything, all his repertoire and everything. So I shed it like I never did on bass, and yeah, it was a great experience. So Bootsy, I guess, saw a video of a song I might have done, like a live performance of on YouTube. And he said, "Hi, Bobble." I was like, oh my God, who is this? "It's Bootsy, Bobble." So I was like, okay, hi. He was like, "Well, where are you?" Whatever. I think I was in Boston at the time. He was like, "Oh, I'm doing a live show, a late night show in New York. Do you want to come through and you know, introduce ourselves and everything?" I was like, sure. So I came to New York, and I came to the show. He was like, okay, 4 p.m., whatever. I show up, and before you know it, like Bootsy's on the drums, George is on the mic, Bernie Worrell, rest in peace, he's on the Moog, of course, since, and the bass station was open. And so I walk in and I'm thinking, he didn't tell me I would like play or anything. So I walk in at 4, like he told me. All the camera crew is like ready to go. Okay, 10 minutes until taping, and I'm just arriving thinking I'm just sitting in watching the show. And he's like, "Oh, Bobble, where's your bass?" I was like, I didn't bring it. And so craziness, trying to find the bass in the building and everything. First time meeting him too, and he's such a, you know, legend for me, like such an inspiration. One of the reasons why I started playing. And we ended up finding a bass, and I ended up like playing, okay, want to do that stuff or whatever. I was like, okay. And we started playing without even really talking to each other. So next thing you know, I'm like here on stage with Bernie, George, and Bootsy, like some of my biggest inspiration, just playing, and that was incredible. That was an amazing experience. Not expected. I was really grateful for Bootsy because he really trusted me with my vision, and you know, he called me as a producer and writer for his album. So I flew a couple times to Cincinnati, and I got to really see the studio and where everything was happening for him, all the pedals and basses and patterns, leopard, zebra, and the blings. It was he's so incredible. He's so inspiring and down to earth, and such a great person, even on a personal level, you know. So it was really amazing to collaborate with him. He gave me so much trust in his music, and I guess he knew that I really studied before I stepped in his music and P-Funk and that whole era. But I was always learning. Again, I was like a sponge, always learning every day, and he was always cracking jokes, and we were always laughing in the studio. So good vibes, good vibes. Really, when you walk in and you meet a person, before creating music, I love to have conversation with someone, like just knowing what they have to say, what their inspiration is, like musically, but also like in life, what their experience is and what they want to talk about and what sound they want to get into that they haven't necessarily got into yet. Or yeah, those are the best moments, really. That's when the inspiration strikes and the good music comes, really. Working with Silo was really amazing. He's such a great person. I played a few shows with him. The live arrangements were great. His show was so fun to play, and he's just a great person. I loved working with Ronson as well. He has such great ear and to the detail of the sound of guitars and bass. It's just really, I'm like there as a sponge, you know, just learning from his input on every song, and yeah, it's been a great experience. Paak is an incredible artist. He really inspires me every day, every session, on a personal level and on a music level, of course. We met in New York through Q-Tip. We did a session, and I remember I walked in and we were in separate rooms. He was on drums and I like hopped in on bass and stuff, and he was like, "Who's playing bass?" Like, "Was you? Really?" And he was just like, immediately we felt a connection. He's very talented and just an incredible person overall. I really learned from him that, you know, like just working with him throughout the past few years, that it's okay to like jam and jam until you find that special moment. You know, he has a lot of like patience and great ear. Everything really he touches like becomes incredible. Just overall musician and rapper and singer, lyricist. It's really always inspiring. So Calvin Harris was a great session with him. It was very quick, actually. He reached out on Instagram, and I guess he was like, "Oh, like, you're great, like I'm super late to the game," or whatever. And he was super nice and down to earth and so talented. Again, a great ear. We met up in LA. We did a session at his studio in LA, which is synth heaven. Hundreds of synths all over his studio. So I was kind of like a little girl in a like playground. Oh, what's this and what's that and what's that? Like, I need this, like the nerd that I am. But he was incredible. He played me a couple of things that he was like, you know, cooking up for his album. And there was one of the tracks he played me that we kind of jammed. And then 21 Savage hopped on it, and I didn't really hear it until it came out. So it was a great surprise to hear him on it. He was jamming, he was incredible. So actually, it was really a great session, because I feel like his sound really incorporates like a lot of different elements from like, you know, the 70s, but also more modern. And he kind of broke down like how he approaches his drums and everything. So it was really just interesting and helpful to see a little bit the behind the scenes of his hits, you know, or how he cooks up. And, you know, again, he's not necessarily like he's a great musician, but he doesn't come from a musician background. So it was very cool to see how he treats, like, and his approach to music. His music knowledge is incredible. Really, he like samples like some vinyl stuff, and it's very, very inspirational to see him work. So yeah, I started as a musician first. Really, I loved just creating music with live musicians. And then a lot of records I was listening to, again, from the 70s, were, of course, live musicians on it. So I was like, okay, like it would be really cool to not only play live shows with musicians, but also just make actual songs from it. And it's really, it's kind of like a different approach. Like it's in a way that I remember like Bootsy was telling me, if you can solo each part of a song, like each instrument in a song, that's when you know the parts are good, right? Because like all the parts individually, they have to make a record sound good. So if you can solo each one of them, like they have to like really groove or like feel right separately. So that's kind of like how I've been like going at it. I've been just doing that and see how it feels to make an actual song or a record sound good. I'm an analog lover, as you can see. I really love like the warmth and the, you know, the feel of it. I love touching an instrument, tweaking knobs. That's really when inspiration strikes for me. Like I get inspiration from different things, from life, from experience, but also really from gear and music itself. So when I get a new piece of gear, I'm like, oh, like nerding out like for hours on it and just like finding a cool sound, and then you come up with a line or something. So of course, like, you know, bass and guitars, that's pedals. I have a bunch of pedals that I really love. Some of my favorite gear, I would say probably the Moog Voyager. That's a piece that I really, really love. Incredibly rich sounds, and again, the filter, envelope, everything. You can really, oscillators, you can really tweak and get such a wide type of sounds, really. Wurlitzer, Rhodes, those are like classics to start off like a song or something with. I recently got a Whirly, and that's really one of my favorite pieces in the studio. The Juno 106 and the Prophet 10. I would say equally really inspiring with their sounds. I mean, the Juno 106 is like such a classic piece. And then of course, like my Fender bass right here, 82, vintage bass that I really love. And then a lot of goodies, a lot of pedals. Love the Linn drums, love drum machines. Those always like are a different approach and a cool way to start a groove. But I have also drums, live drums, and I love incorporating like programmed drums and live drums a lot of times. With the bass, I love going through the Vintech, and then usually either the Manley or LA2A. Those are like some of my two favorite compressors. I don't try to like EQ it too much because I love the rawness, and the bass sounds great as is. I love using Serato sample because quickly lets me like drag in a sample. If it's, for example, if I come up with something on keys or bass or that doesn't have drums yet, I quickly slide a drum loop or percussion loop, and it gives me like, I can pitch it up, down, trigger samples from it. Like the workflow is so easy and quick, which is super on the spot when you just want to create and don't want to sit hours or whatever trying to manipulate something. Super easy. I actually used it on a Mary J. Blige song that I worked on, that Love Without the Heartbreak. I had like a hi-hat loop that I had recorded live, and I quickly like dragged it into Serato sample and made different chops and cue points. And that's what we used in the end. Serato stems is incredible. I was such in awe when I saw it. I didn't believe it was real, but it's actually real. It's so inspiring because now you can isolate the drums, the bass, the keys, and it's just like when you listen to songs and you're like, oh, I wonder what's, like I remember sitting there hours trying to like transcribe a bass line or a progression and like having to like EQ it and stuff, and now it's like, oh yeah, let me just solo that. So it's going to be very inspiring for producers. You know, you're going to be able, even for like my live DJ sets, I love incorporating different instruments and creating from scratch. Just using like a drum loop or something, and it's going to be like life-changing, really. Like it's so inspiring and very innovative to the not only like producer community, but also like, of course, DJ community in the live scene. Well, IG posts were like at first like a fun way to just kind of share my cook-ups and creativity with the world. I actually met a lot of people through Instagram now, social media. I use it in a wise and moderate way. Don't let it go up to your head too much. But yeah, it started being for fun, really. I started having this idea of like drum flips. So just basically taking a drum loop and then reinventing kind of what I do live with like DJing and stuff, like recreating from scratch, like another progression or just a different approach to things. And then I started also like sharing just regular jams or whatever records I've done, and just the BTS and behind the scenes things, yeah. I met Lenny Kravitz recently through IG. We met in person after that. Calvin Harris was also through Instagram. Yeah. Some of my favorite people, actually, Jimmy Jam just DM'd me the other day saying my post inspired him, which meant a lot. Like that's really, you know, I do it for the love of music, really. It comes down to like my passion for music and just kind of like not taking it too seriously either, just kind of like posting whatever feels good at the moment. And hopefully it inspires others. So kind of like what I was saying earlier, like the creative process, just getting in a session with an artist. I love the beginning conversations, which I really feel will determine kind of what's happening after. And those are always very inspiring and golden. And that's when we touch up on what they want to talk about and their inspiration musically and what they want to kind of explore, a world that maybe they haven't yet. I love challenging people. Like I love really, you know, getting into a world that they haven't really been in, or like something they've always wanted to do but they haven't yet. So I love that process, like really the beginning part. And then of course, sometimes I jam from scratch with the person. I always think that's more personal. Sometimes I, you know, start a track, well, I prepare a track beforehand and just kind of like just prepare some ideas that I can then play for them. Sometimes they just want to like just hop on a mic or start writing right away, depending on who it is. If it's someone like Anderson, for example, he loves jamming like on drums, and then I'll hop on bass or keys and then we'll cook up like, you know, from scratch. But certain people, I know they like to have a few beds of ideas in mind and vibes so they can get in the mood and stuff. And then I love, you know, I usually engineer everything. I love being hands-on the computer. And just because it's like quicker process for me at least. And then, yeah, that's really when the magic happens. Yeah, I always try to make it very welcoming, putting some Palo Santo and good smells in the air. Music playing when people arrive, just to, you know, everything matters really. I mean, I'm sure engineers can tell you as well in studios, and producers, really to make the artists feel comfortable and to make it a safe space where you create so that you can be yourself. Ego is out the door. It's really you to the core, and you and music, and nothing else matters really. It's all about music. It's not even about you anymore. So yeah, I've been working with incredibly talented artists. Sweetwater was incredibly helpful with the kind of remodeling, upgrading of the studio. I decided to kind of switch to UAD and have everything plugged in and ready to go, just because sometimes like I switch from one synth to the other, or like there's a few musicians jamming, or I just wanted everything to be like ready to go and ready to press record. And Sweetwater was great. I ordered some gear from them, very helpful and very quick. And yeah, thank you, Sweetwater.